even in the championship, so taking riders past the halfway mark. 37 riders lined up on the grid for the 20 laps of the 6.134 kilometre track. That's 122.68 kilometres, the race distance. Fastest qualifier, Lawson, then Gardner, then McElnay on the front row, pushing. And a rocket start from the second row of the grid by Rod Haslam on the Elf Honda, absolutely spearing into the lead on bike number 5. Heading the field, very poor start for Eddie Lawson, about in the middle of the pack at this stage. Well headed by his Marlborough Yamaha teammate, Rob McElnay, but look at the way Haslam's flying on the revolutionary Elf. Just one of many good starts he's made through the season. The bike's often faded from then on, only a V3 engine on it, not a V4 like on Gardner's bike, and then a rider's eye view from Raymond Roche's Honda, also a V3 rather than the more faster and more powerful V4. And just a single disc brake on the front of Haslam's bike too. He can be seen there on the left. The revolutionary system, not front forks, but a real an arm horizontal to the ground coming round on the right, precludes having a disc brake on the right-hand side. Through the complex twists and turns of the Assen circuit, the track that traditionally attracts the biggest crowd, as you see Gardner into 4th place now. He's being dogged by McElnay. And then you see Eddie Lawson running out wide onto the grass and at ridiculously low speeds, tossed off the bike, trying to swing it round to rejoin the track after running wide in a fairly innocent fashion. The series leader, 72 points as he came into this round, dumps on the grass, and now in something of a comic situation with the 3 officials perhaps hindering as much as they're helping, trying to regain the track, some of them suggesting that either there's no chance, there's no point to it, or that he can't. And then Lawson really expressing his frustration as he stamps away, while Haslam leads the pack. And a furious Eddie Lawson heading back towards the pits after less than half a lap of racing. And Haslam absolutely flying, coming around to finish lap 1 as Gardner then tries to get up into 2nd place. And he's keeping himself nice and busy with Raymond Roche. And he does in fact assert himself into 2nd position now, Wayne Gardner, out after Ron Haslam. So, surprisingly in this year's series, it's Honda-powered machines occupying the major placings at this stage. The Elf Honda, a machine developed by an oil company but with Honda backing in terms of the engines, and with a Honda interest perhaps in manufacturing that type of design in road bikes sometime in the future. A senior engineer from Honda saying a couple of years ago that in 20 years' time all bikes will perhaps be very similar to the Elf Honda. 3rd place Raymond Roche and the conventional type bike. Wayne Gardner 2nd and pressing Haslam, making ground on him all the time. 4th place is McElnay on the Yamaha, the best place of those at the moment, as Gardner shoulders his way past Haslam on the 2nd lap and takes the lead. So it's the Wollongong boy, in the absence of the man that's been really giving him a hard time through the season, Eddie Lawson, who now takes the lead and sees a real chance perhaps to narrow down the enormous gap. 49 points for Gardner, and there's Paul Lewis out on the grass, Shunji Yatsusiro as well, and Fabio Bigliotti. All of them down, but all of them quick to try and regain the track as well. Same area as Eddie Lawson went off. Quite a slow corner, and curiously, they being allowed or helped to get underway again. You see Raymond Roche looking at 2nd place, looking at Haslam, but a bit of a thrust from Haslam under brakes kept Raymond Roche back in 3rd. Roche quite a solidly built man, but very short in stature, and in fact has a specially shaped tank. to suit his shorter build, and we're on his bike with him at this stage. Coming round, lap 2 completed now. 12.2627 kilometres gone in a 20-lap race. Averaging more than 160 kilometres an hour, Gardner. Beautiful flow and rhythm, and the gigantic crowd at Assen that makes this the biggest attendance meeting of the year in Grand Prix racing, cars or bikes. A massive crowd, estimated at anything between 140,000 upwards, some estimated at more than 200,000 people. And they're watching Wollongong's Wayne Gardner heading the field in the 6th round of the World 500cc Championship. And building the lead too. Cracking on the power, 145 horsepower, answering the command, only about 100 kilos weight, so tremendous power to weight ratio. And Rob McElnay right up with Raymond Roche. 3rd place Roche, 4th place McElnay. And 3rd place McElnay. 4th now to Roche. And then it's Momola looming into 5th place. Randy Momola, who in the last 5 years has 3 times been runner-up in the World 500cc Championship, left Honda after some frustration, as playing second fiddle last year to Freddie Spencer. In fact, played second fiddle to him for 2 years and didn't much like it. Didn't feel he was getting equal machinery, but equal machinery was what Wayne Gardner demanded. And he got that assurance from Honda before he signed his contract, that he would have equal machinery. So he has the V4, he has the same suspension, the same sort of mechanical components, as you see Momola looming into the background behind this quartet, making up the 4th of them. And at the front, Gardner, being kept very busy indeed on a very busy racetrack. Coming round, 3 laps completed. And it's still Honda leading the race from 2nd place. Raymond Roche is doing a good job. 3rd place Yamaha. Then the Elf Hondas further back. Haslam slipping back a little bit on a bike that's still in the developmental stage. It was the even more revolutionary Elf 2 Honda, and the British rider Kenny Irons down on 42. And not looking very well at all. Well back in the field when he fell. But Gardner, very little respite available on this circuit, just mono-wheeling a little bit as he punches a hard out of the corner. And further back you see McElnay still thrusting at Roche. And so too Randy Momola. Randy Momola down the inside and not quite getting by Rob McElnay. But by gee, there wasn't much in it. Suddenly that puts a lot of pressure on McElnay to start dealing very quickly with Roche in 2nd place, and not very far behind them, the other Lucky Strike team rider, the same as Randy Momola, is Mike Baldwin on bike number 11. Baldwin, 31 years old, twice winner of the Suzuka 8-hour race, 5 times American Formula One champion, and making a fine impression in this his first year in a major factory team in the World 500cc Championships. And that man, Randy Momola, one of the really entertaining riders in the World Championship Series, but has never won a World Championship. And how he would love to. Nor's that man, Wayne Gardner. And he thinks he's destined to. And Honda Racing Corporation Japan does too. And they're grooming him. And in their grand plan of things, as lap 4's completed, with McElnay now in 2nd place, and Momola surging into 3rd ahead of Raymond Roche, who goes from 2nd to 4th in fairly quick time, and Haslam still in 5th, and Baldwin now 6th. In HRC's scheme of things, this year was Wayne Gardner's learning year, backing up Freddie Spencer as he defended successfully his World 500cc crown and abdicated the 250 crown that he won last year. And then next year was Gardner's crack at the championship, full-blooded. But, of course, it hasn't worked like that. Spencer's been sidelined. Gardner's had to take over the whole mantle. And 1 year too early and with less experience than most of the people he's chasing, has been in the position to be able to challenge for the lead in the championship. Led it after winning the first round in Spain. Has been in second most of the series, still in that position in the championship, albeit with just 2 points behind him. Randy Momola there on bike number 6, tucked in behind Rob McElnay. McElnay's second, Momola's third, Roche's fourth. Haslam's fifth, Baldwin's sixth. And there's just 2 Hondas in those 6. One of them's first and one of them's fifth, and that's the Honda Powered Elf. The rest are the YZR V4 Yamahas, similar power to the Hondas, but very different in the engine. They have 2 crankshafts, the V4 Honda, one for each bank, and then they're geared together. So they've got more engine bearings as Gardner punches hard out of the corner, and you can see how much power the bikes have. Tremendous acceleration, the bike nervous and twitchy. And everywhere you look around this Assen circuit, 6.134 kilometres, thousands and thousands of people. This really is an enormous tradition for the Dutch, a very long-running event, and a real family day, always. Last year, streaming wet, and won by Momola, lap 5 gone. Randy Momola's only win last season was here at Assen. Lawson was out with his only fall in 4 years in World Championship racing, and Freddie Spencer was taken out by Christian Saron, who also had a fall. Rob McElnay doing a great job. He, like Gardner, first year doing a full season, fully fledged factory team over from the Skoll Bandit Suzuki team from Great Britain. And now in the factory Yamaha team, has the machinery of the man leading the series. But as he says, I don't want to fall, I don't want to get myself into trouble. He did have a fall at Monza, being given a last lap board a lap too early and then trying desperately to make up some ground. Nicely spotted here in second place, being pressured though by Randy Momola. And yet another fall. Several riders involved, and is one of them Dave Peterson, the South African, who has done several Swan Series in Australia and is riding for the HB Suzuki Galena team. Second and third, both Yamahas, McElnay and Momola. Gardner, nice little cushion to him. There's 3 seconds at least in it at this stage. Oh my goodness. Boy, too much power, too early there. And in a flash, the bike starting a wheel spin, the back coming round on him, but beautifully controlled. And look how much it phased him, not one whit. And that, of course, is what's so essential in a top racer. That goes right into the back of the mind. Totally switched on as Momola gets on to Rob McElnay. Down the start-finish straight again, past the grandstand in the grass pit area. First, then second and third. McElnay, Momola. Classic sweeping entry to the right-hander there by McElnay. Left a little bit of an opening, but Momola not close enough to take advantage. Massive rear tyres on these bikes, about the span of a large man's hand, about 5.5 inches across. Any wider upsets the geometry of the bike. It starts to get an out of plumb line between the front and the rear wheel as they're cranked over, so there's a self-regulating factor in the width of the rear wheel, and it's still Gardner in the lead. Only one win this year, Spain, and one says only, and that's being very unfair to him. The great Graham Crosby competed with an enormous ability. As we see that Randy Mamola's done the fastest lap so far, and it's a new lap record, 2:15.07, 163.573 kilometres an hour. That's the man. 25-year-old Californian who's now in second place, forcing his way past Rob McElnay. The Lucky Strike Yamahas under the control of Kenny Roberts, 3 times world motorcycle 500cc champion, and a man known pretty correctly in his reign as King Kenny, because there was really nobody to take the title from him. For 3 years he won it on the trot, and so Mamola and Mike Baldwin, his teammate, and it could have been Wayne Gardner. He had the choice of going to that team under some very impressive leadership and guidance in Kenny Roberts. And of course, in the Marlboro Yamaha team, there's Kel Carruthers, the World 250 champion from Australia. At one stage, another lap completed. And the great Giacomo Agostini, running that team, 15 times world champion, winner of 122 Grand Prix. And Rob McElnay, the man trying to benefit from that. Eddie Lawson, his teammate, out of this race, out of a race for the first time this year. Scored points in every other round, which is why he's leading on 72. Second to Gardner in Spain, and then successive wins, 4 in a row, from Monza, Nürburgring, Salzburgring in Austria, and then Rijeka in Yugoslavia. On the other hand, Randy Mamola, best only of a second place. And Gardner out of the points at Monza when he was hit on the start line by Marco Gentile, the Swiss rider. And that's what's really been his handicap. He rode on after a 2-lap pit stop, finished 16th, and was given a tremendous welcome by the crowd for his efforts, but no points. Pinpoint accuracy by Gardner as Mamola gets a slide up towards the outside of the circuit, and a little bit twitchy also with McElnay. In fact, to get these bikes circulating anywhere near a competitive lap time, you do get them sliding. You have the back sliding, the front to a lesser extent, but it's a very, very delicate balancing act at very high speed with a lot of power on tap. And it takes an enormous amount of audacity and of skill and of experience to be able to balance the whole affair. And that's the race situation coming up to 16 minutes of racing after 6 laps. Gardner just less than 2 seconds in front of Mamola. Lap 7 now completed. It's Gardner and it's Mamola getting away from McElnay, getting a little bit closer to Gardner. McElnay doing everything he can to hang on and being very nicely positioned at this stage. Better than he's been at this part, an early part of a race, in previous rounds of the championship. He'd be very pleased. News comes through that Kenny Irons has broken his pelvis. Very bad luck for him. Gardner punching it down through the 6-speed gearbox and then winding it out up around 11,500 revs, and the front wheel clawing at the air as Mamola sets off after him, still haunting him and pursuing him. As we've said before, no rear vision mirrors on race bikes, so it's only by sense and by taking the odd furtive look over the shoulder that you know how close somebody is and who it is. Third place, McElnay. Second place, Mamola. Fastest lap, an even better time to Momola. Now the average speed 164.3 kilometres an hour and a new lap record for the 25-year-old Californian. That's the gap to Gardner, the leader. And there's not much in it. And Gardner, with beautiful flow and rhythm, really is looking very, very nice indeed. Beautiful transition from one side to the other. Other than the odd little twitchy slide, he hasn't really been in any trouble. And they've been controlled nice and early. End now of lap 9. 20-lap race. And an enormous crowd enjoying the far better weather than they had last year, where it was streaming wet. And a very difficult race in which Gardner set the fastest lap at about 2:28, so it was about 14 seconds slower in the rain than the fastest lap set this year, the new lap record set by Randy Momola. Last year, Randy Momola, the winner from Ron Haslam, Gardner third, although he set the fastest lap. Boat van Doelman, the Dutchman, was fourth to a great local welcome. Here, Etienne Samin was fifth, Didier de Rodrigues, the Belgian, sixth, Rob McElnay, seventh. It's third at the moment, though, in the race that matters, this year's. Now, with Randy Momola out after Gardner, Gardner down hard, and the Kushatani leathers all ventilated, just flapping slightly as he gets up towards maximum speed. And then he tucks over, and the knee again does its job of seeking out the ground, of telling him how far over he is and giving him a little bit of balance and feel. A bit of airstream on the inside leg helps haul him around a little bit with the extra wind interference on that side. And also the high leg pulls the tank over and tends to pull it into the corner as well. Cornering a motorbike's not like sitting in your car and twiddling the wheel from arm's length. It's very much a body instruction to the bike. Hands play very little in terms of cornering the motorcycle. It's knees, it's bottom, it's body and balance that does it. And if you get that right, well then you've got the machine working well, as Gardner, though, is being hauled in by Randy Momola. His lead becoming even more slender as he comes up to complete half distance. That's the race situation. Just a second and a half to Momola. Not much further back to Rob McElnay. Baldwin's into fourth place. So Momola, being well supported by his Lucky Strike teammate, who's forced his way up to fourth. And Gardner again really does show beautiful rhythm and flow. And again, past this massive crowd. Boy, more people wrapped around this circuit at the moment, the 6.134 kilometres of it, than live in the whole of Gardner's hometown, I think, down in Wollongong. And although he may be a better known name in Japan or in Europe, Wollongong is certainly very proud of the man who's doing so well in the World Championships, not only in riding ability, but in very positive mental approach, controlling himself well, presenting himself well to the public, taking on, shouldering the pressures of riding at this level, which is not just riding. It's not just the sort of pressure that he's getting at the moment from Randy Momola, as Momola gets ever closer, well within a second now of the race lead. Honda versus Yamaha, Yamaha challenging. Randy Momola, far more experience at this level of the sport than Wayne Gardner. Very physical, jumps around on the bike much more than Gardner. And so now Gardner's got to produce something special, and everybody in the pits watching and wondering what the new boy can do to sustain, to prevent this challenge succeeding. His Honda Racing Corporation crew in the pits watching, wondering whether he can shoulder this sort of pressure and challenge. Kenny Roberts watching his man there in second place and knowing instinctively what he'd do in the situation, how he'd handle it. He's won 3 world championships. The rider in his team hasn't had that sort of success. Another lap completed. The end of 11. Still Gardner leads. He's led all but a lap and a half. That was led by Ron Haslam. So only Honda Power has led this race. And that's been unusual in this year's championship because Yamaha has been the slightly more powerful and the slightly faster bike in straight line speed, and it's been at least the equal in the frame, although Gardner has been very pleased with his bike in tight stuff. Reckon he's been able to make some ground by forcing through some of the tighter corners and some of the chicanes, the left-right flicks. But generally the YZR Yamaha has been more than the equal, and there's a brace of them. 2 in the Marlborough team, 2 in the Lucky Strike team, Christian Saron in the Gauloise team. That's 5 strong ones just to start with. And Wayne Gardner's been on his own on the V4 Honda. V3 support from Raymond Roche and from Ron Haslam on the Elf. Gardner not really held up there. Although a bit urgent, a bit anxious to get around, he gets untidy. And the dispatch is quick and swift. And it's Mamola's turn then, as he lowers the record even further to 14.4, raising the average to 164.303 kilometres an hour, and around a circuit with as many twists and turns and bends and as few straights as Assen has in Holland over near the coast. Then it's a great performance indeed to record that sort of speed. Record previously held by Eddie Lawson. 2:15.75, the previous one. It's now 14.4, and another lap completed. It's still Wayne Gardner leading. It's still Randy Mamola on the chase, and still Rob McElnay's third. Great stuff. And the Californian really going for it. At Monza, we saw him throw out this sort of challenge to Eddie Lawson. He tried everything. He tried late braking. He tried desperately hard cornering. He tried getting the power on earlier out of corners. Tried everything he could to stop Eddie Lawson getting away. He got to within less than 2 seconds of him, but he just couldn't break that border. And it was a Lawson win from Mamola second. And that was the race where Gardner was tooling around after a 2-lap pit stop and finally coming in 16th. But Mamola's already had 2 second placings this year. 47 points in the series to Gardner's 49. '72, Eddie Lawson. Man proving very hard to catch indeed. But sidelined in this race, just half a lap after the start. A crash at very low speed on the grass and out. And there's first and second. And boy, Gardner is really hammering his bike hard. He's getting the power on early, as you can see by the way the back's trying to step around. They're both getting away from Rob McElnay, who's doing nevertheless a grand job, and chasing him, the other Lucky Strike team member, 31 years old, Mike Baldwin. Baldwin, the oldest of these 4, but with a very fine record too, but a record not so much in World Championship racing as in endurance racing at Suzuka and in the American Formula One Championship, financing his own TZ 750 Yamaha years ago. He's ridden quite a few makes and models, and he's been doing a grand job in the series this year. He had 3 third places on the trot. McElnay sees the two bikes in front specifically, and Wayne Gardner just 1.43 seconds in front of Randy Mamola, and they're the two bikes that McElnay's seeing get away from him, and he seems fairly resigned and relaxed to his fate to see those two move away fairly wisely. He's